Well, thank you very much indeed, Peter Mears, and ladies and gentlemen, good morning to you all. I just, of course, commence by acknowledging our traditional custodians, and allow me to break protocol this morning to acknowledge, firstly, of course, Daphne Fancutt and to her family. Lovely to have you, Daphne, and it's a day that is probably long overdue today.
And this podcast on the wonderful raconteur that Daphne Fancutt was is also equally well overdue. Over a period of about 5 years, I was greatly entertained when I interviewed Daphne Fancutt. And you're going to hear a wonderful selection, but it is only that. It is a selection of the many YouTubes that I recorded with Daphne as she gave me assistance in having the Wendy Turnbull Green named, in assisting the Roy Emerson Museum fundraise, and many other sundry tasks. Enjoy.
Well, we're here this morning to really celebrate and to honour what has been 50 glorious years of involvement in the sport of tennis. And going back in time, I think it's fair to say that not only was Daphne a great player on the court, but also she has kept that absolute love and passion for the game right through the years to be able to bring us many other tennis greats through her coaching. And we thank you very, very much, Daphne, for all that you have done. Just to recount, though, a couple of the highlights. 1994, Daphne won gold medals in the Australian Masters Games, the World Masters Games, and the Asian Pacific Games. But of course, in the earlier years, 1953, the Queensland Hardcourt Singles Championship, the 1956 Australian Open Singles semi-finalist, and then a finalist in the 1956 doubles at Wimbledon, and going on to take the tournament for the German doubles with Faye Muller. Many of you may not be aware, but even back in the days of Nudgee Orphanage, Daphne was involved in helping some of those youngsters get engaged in the wonderful game of tennis. And of course, Daphne became then the tennis ambassador when World Expo 88 was staged. So this morning, Daphne, we honour you. We thank you for what has been a lifelong contribution to the game of tennis. And I think it's very, very fitting today that we come together to be able to unveil a plaque in your honour, which we'll do soon. Thanks very much.
I actually want to say welcome to everybody that's here. And the thing I would like to say is that what makes this unique is that there are people here from all walks of life. My niece flew back from Wimbledon and arrived yesterday, so she could be here. But we're all joined in a common bond, and it's a wonderful bond. It's a family bond. We're the family of tennis, is standing here and sitting here in front of me. There's two things about tennis. It's a joy in your life, from when you take it up to when you drop dead like me in a few years. I started the youngest of 9 kids on a farm. I won't go into that. But you just imagine it, through the 1933 depression, and from there I managed to crawl my way or find my way to the centre court at Wimbledon. And my dear, dear friend, Faye Mullovich was, who I believe carried me in the final, literally, we played on the centre court at Wimbledon 59 years today.
Hey.
There was one woman's team in 22 years. One. And I missed out on that. I was supposed to be in it, but I busted my knee. I can't eat, it's never been corrected on. But anyway, and so they couldn't understand how I got overseas. The people of Monto, 350 miles in the bush, the people of Monto raised some money. I was the youngest of 9 on a farm. And the people of Monto raised the money and gave me a boat fare, which I went, and Dad took me on a boat. He said, you don't know anybody, you don't speak any languages, but you get off this boat in Naples, I've arranged for you to play in the tournament, and you start, and you go from Naples and you make your way to England and play Wimbledon. That's what you've got to do.
Very different parts of the world. A lot of people have asked the question of how Daphne and I managed to get together. Well, I went over to Wimbledon and played a couple of times before she came, and then I was at one of the tennis centres one time, and a very good friend of mine, Gordon Forbes, came walking away from the courts towards me, and I'd been practicing, and he said, "Trevor, you've got to go and have a look at the centre court." He said, "There's a girl on that court there with the most fantastic legs you've ever seen." So I went up and of course looked at these very pleasant legs, and at that stage tennis was all I was interested in. I wasn't interested in getting a girlfriend or anything at that stage. But we then, later that year, I was being sponsored by Dunlop Sports Company, and Pat Hughes, the chairman, rang me and said, "Trevor, you and Owen Williams are going to play in Ireland, in Belfast, and there's an Australian girl going over to play as well, and you are to look after her." So, being what I am, I've been told to look after her. So we travelled there, and from that we became very friendly, and she was someone I really liked.
So the Australian girl you were told to look after
And
was
being
Daphne.
Australian was, a long way away, but it was a friendship. It wasn't a love affair. It was a really good friendship, and we of course then parted at the end of that year. She went back to Australia, I went back to South Africa, and then we came back again the following year, in '57 I think it was, and we travelled together all the time with a group of South African and Australian players, and ended up in Istanbul. And we'd played Beirut the week before, and then we had Istanbul tournament to be followed by the Athens tournament. But I had made an arrangement to go up or somewhere up with Rod Drobny to play some exhibition matches, and Daphne was going to play Athens the next week. So it happened that these things perhaps are not under your control, but we basically had said goodbye to each other, because I was flying back to South Africa, she was taking the boat back to Australia, and what happened was we went out in the morning, and I saw Daph off on the Athens plane at the airport, and she went off to Athens. And at lunchtime I came out to catch the plane to Holland or whatever I was going, and the plane was commandeered by the Turkish army. They just came out in trucks, threw us all off the plane and flew off and left us on the tarmac. And I feel this was an act of God, because from that I was able to get a flight to Athens that night and met up with Daphne, found that the Suez Canal was closed so she couldn't go home, and I was faced with doing what I had to do. So I said to her, "Well, look, come up with us and play these tournaments," which they were very happy to have her come to the tournaments, and we then went up there, and from there I flew home to South Africa, and Daphne later caught a boat to London and came to South Africa. I'd hoped she would come, but a very good friend of ours, Jean Forbes, was a very good friend of Daphne's, and Jeannie invited her to go to their farm in South Africa, and she did that, and that is where we met up again. And
Ian Ayres, and while principally this story is about Stefan, it does resolve around the tragic circumstances of Ian's passing.
This is a photo of a very good man. He's an Australian Davis Cup player, loved by all the players, and he had a very sudden death, actually died on the court while he had an attack on the court. And they'd gone, he and his wife Gwen had gone into a business, and he had this death. So a group of tennis players said, well, a group of tennis players said, let's clear this debt. So we got together and decided to have a pro-am at Milton, followed by a dinner at night, which was hugely successful. And one of the keys to the success was to get leading amateurs who love tennis to play with the pros. So I contacted Stefan and Sir Robert Mathers. Sir Robert was fine, he was in Brisbane, but Stefan was in Russia, and so I had to contact him and say, would you be available? So, amazing person that he is and was, he cancelled his trip in Russia and flew back and played in the tennis and the dinner at night, which was a huge success, and we cleared the debt.
And Daphne, you've got an interesting story to tell about how the Cupid arrow hit Ashley Cooper.
Yes, that was many years ago. I was out at Milton, and Ashley was playing on one of the courts, and always when he played everybody wanted to watch because he was such a great champion. And there was a beautiful girl there, and somebody said, who's that? And they said, oh, that's Helen Woods, she's Miss Australia. I said, oh, isn't she beautiful? Anyway, I noticed that her eyes followed Ashley all over the place, and I thought, gee, this is interesting. And not long after, they got engaged and got married. And
Hi, I'm Charlie Fancutt, and this is the tennis practice court. The council has built many of these in the parks, and they hopefully build many more, and they're fantastic. Please use them, all you young players and older players.
Daphne, you've really got some interesting things to tell us about Wendy Turnbull and her absolutely sterling service to tennis and tennis in Australia.
that's true, Peter. I said for years Wendy has played the circuit, and both amateur and professional. And I know I was at Wimbledon when she played her 50th consecutive year at Wimbledon. I don't know that there'd be anybody else do that, but she played and got to the finals and won events as an amateur, and then went on and played in the over 50s. All the great champions go back and play in the seniors, and Wendy did that. Another thing Wendy did, she during her time here in Queensland, she ran a coaching squad at Milton and gave her services, and I actually went out and assisted her with that when I was younger. And she took a great interest in all those young players, and I don't think many people remember that.
Now, the lucky pants, Roy's lucky pants.
Oh, this often happens with sporting people, you know. There's a lot of people, even in our day, they come to a line and they step over, they don't step on the line. I swear, it's absolutely true. And Roy, I couldn't believe it because he's such a great person. He wanted to wear the same, if he won a match in the pants, he wanted to wear them the next match. Poor Joy's trying to wash these pants and get them ready. He had a roof full of pants that was given by his sponsor, but he wanted this. The pockets fell apart and the pants, and Joy said, what am I going to do, Daphne? I said, I'm still trying to fix these pants. And that's absolutely true. For I think for 2 years he wore the same pair of pants every time he played a match. we are a weird mob.
Well,
I think the story about the Davis Cup winning and the feet out the window is really good.
Well, it just compares to today, where you don't pay and you wonder why you're paying and you're getting millions of dollars, and I mean millions. You've got a great champion like Roy Emerson. We're at Milton, right? It's Trevor and I there, and we got I think it was a little green mini miner. We were really rich. And Troy's playing Davis Cup. He wins the Davis Cup. He wins the Davis Cup. I'm serious. And all the officials in those days got the cars. So yeah, all the officials get the cars. So they go all home, and then Troy's standing in the back of the court. He's looking around, he hasn't got his car. He's got no car to take him. He's only won the Davis Cup. And so he looks over and he says, "Hey, Trev, will you give me a lift?" I mean, we've got this tiny little car, and Roy's 6 foot, whatever. Anyway, oh yes, this Trevor, so over he comes, he climbs in the back and his feet are hanging out the window. That's how the champion Davis Cup player went home. In those days, none of us cared. I mean, somebody said to me, "Aren't you sorry that you're not playing today?" I swear to you on a stack of Bibles, I would never give my time and the friends I have all over the world and the great players that I knew and the great players I loved, I would never swap that for what it is today. Today, if you want, honestly, I go to Wimbledon and I go to the Australian Open and you might see a player. That player is surrounded by like the Gestapo. I swear. And nobody's supposed to go near him. The cars even go under the... Now, always, when I played Wimbledon, I mean, the Queen, the players all came and they'd get out of the cars and we could talk to them. It doesn't happen anymore. Nobody speaks to the players. And if you go into the most of the eating places and that, which I luckily can do, it's a group of players sitting there, it's another group of players sitting there, another one over there. And I remember Trevor was asked to coach an American woman one time, and he started, you know, because we're all friendly, he starts talking to some of the other coaches who were players of our time, and the parent of the woman come over, I won't mention names, the parent of the woman comes over and says, "Trevor, I don't like the idea of you talking to that group." And Trevor said, "Why not?" And she said, "You might be telling them something." And that's the way it is, and it's got worse. It really has got worse. So anyway, I swear, the great friends like Roy Emerson and Rod Laver and all the Margaret Court and all the, and the great people that played for this country. When my husband came here, I honestly tell you, he was absolutely in awe of the men, because you would go anywhere in the world to play a tournament, as he said, you'd get to the quarterfinals and there were nothing but Australians to beat to try and win the tournament. And that's true. Who have we got today? Where have we gone wrong?
So Daphne, I'd like you to be able to give us a little bit of a feel about what a great lady Wendy Turnbull is.
Well, I'll be very pleased to do that, because Wendy came to me as a little girl, about 7 years of age, and she showed great promise, had a great forehand even then when she hit the ball. But anyway, switching forward, I think I said in a newspaper that this girl could go and be a Wimbledon player.
And you said that to Hugh?
That's right. Quite amazing, really. But he wrote the story, and I actually still have that cutting. But there was always something about Wendy that made me think that was possible. And she, not only did she become a great player for Australia, for Queensland and for Australia, but she became a great ambassador for Queensland and Australia. She was liked by all the tennis players. Martina Navratilova says great things about her. Pam Shriver does. All these ladies of the day, nobody has a bad word about Wendy Turnbull. she's not only she's honest, she's a great ambassador, and she is a great player. And she did most of all of that on her own. She was a little girl, didn't have rich parents or anything like that. She came from a lovely family down at Sandgate, that's right. Brothers and sisters played, but you know, she really had to do it on her own. In fact, at one stage, I think, she was battling her own way around the world, and she was getting depressed, and she thought, oh well, I think I might as well give this up, I'm not going to make it. And but she'd entered 3 extra tournaments, and she told me she went in and she played the tournaments and she won the last 2. So she thought, well, I better keep going then, because you know, it's better than giving up. But you know, she played in a time when there wasn't money in the game, and she had to battle her own way. But she always conducted herself honourably, would never cheat or anything like that. And I think she's very worthy of whatever praise she gets. Even Martina Navratilova made a statement to the effect in Melbourne one time that Wendy got more credit overseas than she ever got in her own country, let alone her own state.
So how many years were you her coach?
Oh, I think from about 7 to about 15, you know.
The formative years?
Yeah, very formative years, but I can tell you this, and it's true, wherever I was, whatever tournament I was at and she was playing, I never missed a match. And her mother used to say to me, I know you're in the ground somewhere, and I know you're watching. And I watched her lose matches, win matches, but she always did it honourably, and she always did it so that you could be proud of her.
Yeah. And do you happen to know the background of the nickname, the Rabbit?
Yes, well, she was very small, you see, but like me, I was pretty small too, and I had a father who was a racehorse jockey and a racehorse man, so he taught me that I had to be fast, and that's what helped me. I was faster than most people, I was fitter than most people, fast and fitter. Now, when I was working with Wendy, I said, Wendy, you're not going to be 6 foot tall, no good you looking at trying to play like a 6 foot person. You have to be faster than anybody and fitter than anybody and use your brains. And that's what she was famous for.
Now, Lucky Pants, tell us the story of the Lucky Pants.
I'm going to tell you the lucky part about that. Every year these 2 guys used to play against, and whoever lost every year, and whoever lost had to give $1,000 to the other person's charity, nominated charity. And this particular year, they played, and of course we're watching, and at the end of it, Stephen wins. That's right. So it turns out they're playing for a little pig, a real pig. It's in a cage. So anyway, so the next day I get a phone call from Steve, and he says, "What am I going to do with this pig? Come and pick it up. It's in town, where his head office is." So we go in, Trevor and I go in, we get $100 fine because of parking the wrong time. We get the pig, little pig, and we take it home and we put it in the backyard. In the backyard, it's down there, and we're coaching all the kids up here. You can imagine all the kids. We're coaching all the kids up here. I want to go and see the pig. The trail down to this little pig. This little pig grows up. I hope I didn't take it wrong, but this is a funny story. The next thing, this lady from Ascot comes to Trevor and says, "Oh, Trevor, I'm having a party. And can we borrow your pig?" My children want to bring take. So long they arrive at this Mercedes, up goes the back, and in goes the pig, and over it goes for the party for the weekend. Ruins the whole garden, ruins everything else, but they were quite happy because they had Miss Piggy for the party. So she comes back. So now she grows up. Now this time she's thinking of, well, she's you know, anyway, so I have to get rid of her. So my brother comes down from Monto, puts her in a car, takes the truck and takes her up to Monto. And there's a farmer just near us who has a stud pig farm. Give her the pig. So I think, isn't that nice? my little piggies going to have babies and all this sort of thing, which she does. They get the sire out from America. She has the best piglets in the whole of Queensland. That's a true story.
I just wanted to say thank you so much, and I just want everybody here to remember that we are a tennis family, and tennis is what joins us, and tennis is the most wonderful sport of all, and I would like to see it increasing twofold with all little tiny children like my little grandchildren. Don't forget, all of you, if you're going to babysit the children, sit on the floor with 2 wooden spoons and about 6 little balls and bang them around, and in next to no time your child will have brain-eye-hand coordination. Thank you.
So this is Daphne. Milton was the centre of my universe for many years. Like Rod Laver, I left home and come to Brisbane and got bored, and a job with Dunlop Sports Co. to give myself a chance to be the best I could at tennis. We both worked for Dunlops. Each day after work I would hop on the tram out to Milton to practice till dark and then get the tram home. I loved Milton. It became my home of tennis. There were several major sporting companies, Dunlops and Spaldings to name some, in those days who employed promising young players and also top senior players. It was these companies that sent players to tournaments, helping with their tennis development and expenses. My husband Trevor, a South African Davis Cup player, also worked for Dunlops. He and I, with Rod and a fantastic young player named Frank Gorman, travelled to tournaments and towns representing Dunlops. We would coach the children of the district in the afternoon and then give an exhibition of tennis at night, often including the best players in the district. A great promotion for tennis, which was free to everyone thanks to Dunlops. I loved playing on the grass at Milton, soft underfoot and kind to the legs and joints, great for the serve and volley player. Often there was a kookaburra or a magpie singing in the trees. Milton helped me so much in many ways, learning to play well on grass and loving it gave me an advantage when I went to England and played the grass courts and tournaments before Wimbledon. I played very well and was rewarded by being invited to play Wimbledon. I did not have to qualify. Once again, I played very well at Wimbledon, beating the great Australian champion Thelma Long in 3 hard-fought sets lasting 2 days. In the ladies' doubles in 1956, my friend Faye Muller and I, 2 Queenslanders, defeated all teams including the reigning English champions without the loss of a set. We played the final on the centre court in front of royalty. What an experience for 2 little nobodies from Queensland. I also played great on the grass at Queen's Club in 1957, defeating American champion Louise Rome, who was seeded 2 at Wimbledon the following week. A very special match for me and my darling husband Trevor. Was playing on the centre court Wimbledon together the year before we got married in the semi-final of the mixed. These were the days when all the top great players played singles, doubles and mixed. All of these wonderful experiences and wins I owe to being able to practice on the Milton grass courts.